Good morning, everyone. My name is Jim. I am with a Teague of Your Own, along with my wife, Michelle. And today I am flying solo. Michelle is not here today. She is on assignment. So, welcome to another Motivational Monday. Let's get motivated. Woohoo! Doesn't sound quite as nice with just one person. So, that's why you need a team. You need a group of people for something like that. Sounds a lot more interesting when you have more people woohooing. But at any rate, welcome. Thank you for joining me. Or if you're watching this later on the recording, thank you for uh, tuning in. I am going to be continuing with this book, Managing Oneself by Peter Drucker. And so far, we have covered strengths and your performance, how you perform. Today, we're going to be talking about values. And this is something that we've talked about before. A key reason that you need to know your values is because what you're going to do, how you're going to perform, is only going to be as good as how it lines up with your values. Your values are incredibly important. And Peter gives a couple of examples in this little chapter on how values play into a person's decision making. In the first example, he talks about an HR executive who was working with a company that the main way that they would promote was from within, and so they would look for people that they could move into those higher positions, and that's a good way to do things. When you have an organization and people know that there are going to be opportunities within that organization, they're more likely to give a little more, to work a little more, because they know that there's going to be opportunities for advancement. Then they had a change of management, and there was a change in philosophy. The idea now being that they would hire and promote externally. The idea being there that it's an opportunity to bring in fresh blood, bring in some new ideas. As Drucker points out himself, the reality is for organizations, you really should be looking at both. You would not want to restrict yourself to one or the other, because if you're strictly promoting from externally, that's going to completely turn off the people that are working in your organization. So for this HR manager, what she found was this did not fit with her values, with only hiring and promoting externally. And so as a result, despite the fact that it was a financial hardship, she decided to move on to a different organization to do something different. That's because when those values don't line up with what you're doing, it creates that incongruency, which makes it difficult to perform. One of the things that we do at a Teague of Your Own, when we are, especially when we're coaching somebody, but we've also done this with groups of people, is we have an exercise, and we may have talked about this before. I'm going to show you a little bit of this. But we have an exercise that we go through where we have this whole stack of cards, and each one of them has a value on it. So this one you see is change. Okay. And what we make people do, and it's difficult. It's difficult. Most people never even think about this unless they're presented with something like this. What we make them do is first you take the stack and you separate it into three piles. The first one is, yes, this is definitely one of my values. Okay. Second one is, this is one that I consider, but I don't know it's one of my most important values. And then you have a stack that their values, that they're just not part of your value set. And that's fine. You don't, you wouldn't have, I mean, look at this. you wouldn't have all of these as your top values. Okay, so it's important to determine what are your main values. It was interesting, did this exercise not too long ago with somebody, and we both laughed afterwards. It was interesting. We never had this happen before, where the person went through and nearly all of the values ended up being in that priority stack. There were a few in the middle stack, and there was only one that was rejected outright. Now, most people don't do that. So you break that down, okay? Then you go through it a second time. Obviously, the ones that you've completely ruled out, saying that's not part of my real core value set, meaning that you don't view that value as being unimportant. Okay, it just means it's not part of your core value set. Those they're gone. Okay, put those away. You go through the second group and separate those out into two piles. Okay, which ones really are not part of my core value group, and which ones might be. Okay? And then you take the big stack and you do the same thing. You start to separate those out. And what we force people to do is first to narrow it down to 10. Okay, you've got over 50. Narrow it down to 10, which is difficult. People find that very difficult, and that's because they have many different values. Okay? But the key thing that we're trying to do with this exercise is pinpoint those values that are the most important to you. Which ones are part of your true core value system, which is what you need to know. Once they have it narrowed down to 10, then we make them narrow it down to just 5. And then ultimately what they do is they rank those. Okay. And so some of the ones that we will see quite often is money and wealth. Okay. Let's face it, you got to have money to operate. Right. It's not quite as critical as oxygen, but it's pretty darn close in our modern world. Okay. People are really finding out right now. Okay. Another one that people will cite quite often is balance. Okay. They want to have that balance between their work lives and their personal lives. Okay. And that makes perfect sense. Okay. People they want to do a good job. Most folks, they want to work and perform. But at the same time, they also want to make sure that they're paying attention to their priorities in their personal lives. Main one being, and this is a value that we see almost every time we go through this exercise, it is rare that somebody will not have this as one of their values. Family. Family. Important one to think about just because of this weekend. Okay. Look at what all is happening this weekend. We had Father's Day. Okay. A month ago was Mother's Day. This month, yesterday was Father's Day. Okay. That's a celebration of family. Okay. People get together and they celebrate. Okay. Have a holiday, new federal holiday that we're celebrating today, Juneteenth, which celebrates the end of slavery, which is also, if you think about it, is a celebration of family. Why would I say that? Why would I say that? And you could probably go, how in the world is he making that connection? Think about under slavery, how many families were separated because, that family members could be shipped off someplace. Once slavery was over, that was done. Okay. So I really look at Juneteenth as not just being a celebration of the official final end to slavery in this country, but also again another way that you can look at it is a celebration of family. Okay? Another one that we see quite often, passion. Passion. Okay. We were talking about this the other day in a training session. The thing about passion is quite often people will say, follow your passion. But I always cite Mike Rowe, the dirty jobs guy, who says that you don't follow your passion, you bring your passion with you to whatever it is that you do. And so this is one that we see quite often. And like I said, I like the way he views passion because it's not something that you trail behind. It's part of you. It's what you are excited about. It's what gets you going in the morning. We see this one quite often. some of the ones that I find incredibly important. So a couple of these are my values. Teamwork. Teamwork is a big one. And again, this is one of the things that we do at A Teague of Your Own with our training is our main areas are leadership, communication, and teamwork. And that's because it takes a team to build the dream. Okay? Nobody accomplishes anything, much of anything alone. Anybody who achieves any kind of success, status, wealth, they had a team that helped them. Okay? Even the richest guys, Bezos and Musk, they got big companies, they got big teams. Okay. So they have folks working with them. So teamwork is incredibly important because as John Maxwell, Maxwell leadership shirt on, as John Maxwell says, it's impossible to achieve anything of significance with just one person. Okay. So teamwork, and this, like I said, this is one that's incredibly important to me. Another one that I find incredibly important, and sometimes we see this with other folks, but for me, this is one that one of my top 5 values that I really hold to this one, and it's independence. Okay, I'm not big on having other people tell me what to do. Okay, I understand in life you have to. Okay, we all answer to somebody. Okay. Whether you work at a job or company and you have a boss, you have to answer to that boss. Okay? And I do. I understand that. Okay? But I like being in a position where I have a lot of independence and flexibility with what I am doing within the context of doing that job. Okay. And then also, if you have your own business, your own company, you're still answering to somebody. You're answering to your customers. Okay. So you still have some level of independence, but understand that you need to be available when your customers need you. Okay? But I do value this because, again, I like being able to make my decisions for me, even within the context of what I'm doing for somebody else. It's incredibly important to me. Again, not as important to other folks. And then my main value. This is the one that I think, and somebody people are going to go, "Oh, family wasn't your main value?" No, I value my family. Okay, don't get me wrong there. But for me, and again, this is just me. Fun. I like to have fun. Okay. Personality styles, disc. We've talked about that before. I'm an I. An I is an influencer. Okay. I's also tend to be independent minded. Okay? We also tend to be very fun focused. So for us, if we're going to do something, we want to have a good time while we're doing it. And, aren't we told that's the secret to life? One of the secrets to life is that if you have a job that you really enjoy, that you'll never work a day in your life. Okay. So if you're doing something where you're having a lot of fun doing it, then it's not going to seem like work. Okay. A lot of the things that we do in our business when we go to do training or coaching, we have a lot of fun doing it. And I was telling Michelle the other day, we were doing a training session and I walked out of there just, walking on cloud 9. And it's because I have such a good time doing those sorts of things. To me, it's not even work. It's not even work. And so I have a good time doing it. Okay. And that's because a lot of times when I'm involved in training or things like that, we laugh a lot. We have a good time. And that's just because that's my nature. Right? I enjoy laughing. I think laughter is the most beautiful sound in the world. But there's a lot of other values in here, a lot of other things that, that folks may value. Again, talking about Juneteenth, diversity. Okay. That's one that's here. So that's one that you could have. Again, we had change. If you're very, customer focused, customer satisfaction. Some people, they want structure in their lives. Okay. Some people are perfectionists. So perfection might be a value. So again, you've got this whole list of values. And a lot of these things are the kinds of things that, again, most folks would never think about. unless somebody put something like that in front of them. But the key is you need to know what those values are. And this is what Drucker emphasizes. You need to know what your values are so you can make sure that you are doing things that are congruent with those values, things that match up with those values. Even has a couple of quotes in here. Let me see. Let's see. There was one. Is it? So, right at the start, he says, to be able to manage yourself, you have to ask, what are my values? So it's not a question of ethics. And that's another key point to all of this is, again, we're not talking about ethics. Okay. As he says, with respect to ethics, the rules are the same for everybody. They are. Okay. Sometimes it doesn't seem like it, but the rules are the same for everybody. And he says, test for that, a simple one, the mirror test. So in the early years, most highly respected diplomat of all the great powers was the German ambassador in London. He was destined for great things, but he resigned in 1906 because he was going to preside over a dinner for the diplomatic corps for Edward VII. And he knew the king had a predilection for female companionship, and he was going to have to be a part of providing that. And that didn't fit his values. He refused to do it. And so he stepped down. Okay. So, like he says, ethics are only a part of your value system, especially of an organization's value system. Okay. So you've got to understand don't confuse again ethics and values. Again, notice with the cards that I was showing you. I don't think there was anything in there that dealt with ethical behaviors. Okay. We all know what those are. We know what the right thing to do is. Here it's determining what is important to you. Okay. Let's see. All right. And then, he finishes it off where he talked about one of his early jobs where he was, I'll just read this. So interject a personal note here. So many years ago, I had to choose between my values and what I was doing successfully. So I was doing very well as a young investment banker in London in the mid 1930s, and the work clearly fit my strengths. Yet I did not see myself making a contribution as an asset manager. He figured out something. Yeah, he was good at doing that, but that wasn't what he valued. Okay. Managing assets, making money for other people, a lot of people realize, those types of things, maybe that didn't really fit with my values. He realized something. He said people were what he valued. Okay. So making money for them, yes, great. But he realized that developing people, working with people, growing people, again, the same thing that we do. It's what John Maxwell determined. Okay. He realized that's what he valued. He saw no point in being the richest man, as he said, the richest man in the cemetery. Okay. Said he had no money or no other job prospects, and right smack dab in the middle of the Depression, he quit. He said it was the right thing to do, and he finishes off this chapter with values, in other words, are and should be the ultimate test. Okay, and when you think about that, it really ties in with what's happening now with the Great Resignation. Okay, there's a lot of folks that they're realizing that the work that they have been doing maybe doesn't truly fit with their values. So, it's interesting. We have people talking about the Great Reset, and they mean one thing, but we are in a great reset, and the fact that people are discovering their values and that their lives, their work is more fulfilling when they are doing things that fit with those values. And I think that's one of the reasons why you're seeing so many people that are just walking off their jobs. A lot of folks who are starting their own businesses, and this is while we're in a real economic dilemma. Okay? Not a recession officially. I'm not going to say any more than that, but it is a tough economic situation, and yet we're watching people just walk away. Okay? Again, those values, they are incredibly important. So if you want some help, you want to go through the exercise with us, figure out what your values are, figure out what you really should be doing so it matches up with your values, let us know. Give us a call. You can find us at teagueofyourown.com, okay, or info@teagueofyourown@gmail.com. Send us an email, make contact with us. Even if you don't want to do anything like this, just drop us a line and say hello, okay? Or if you do have a situation, you do have something you need some help with, we are here to help. That is what we do. So next week, Michelle should be back. And I don't know what we're going on to next, whatever the next chapter is. I haven't looked that far ahead. But we should be both here to next week, and we will have another fun time as we move through this book. And hopefully you'll learn a few more things. Hopefully you learned something today. And like I said, reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you. All right. So have a great week and look forward to seeing you all next week. Take care, everyone. Bye.